Welcome to the Breaking Average podcast, the podcast designed to challenge you to break the mold that average has on the world. Each episode offers insights directly from those who choose to break average every day. Now for the latest insights, here are your hosts, Paul Gustafson and Barry Smith.
All right, here we are. Barry, welcome. Welcome to the Breaking Average podcast, everybody. Barry Smith is with me. How you doing, Barry?
I'm doing outstanding, man. Always good to be here with you, brother. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. So it's been a while. It's been a few weeks since we recorded, so we're excited to be here. At the time everybody's watching this, they're celebrating Christmas, of course. But first of all, let's go back. How was your Thanksgiving?
Really nice. Good. Always good to be with family. Of course, we were out in Oregon, so we were, on the other side of the country, which involves travel. Been a lot of travel last month, but it was a good trip. And grandkids got sick towards the end, but that's life. Anybody with kids and grandkids, you got to deal with that. But everybody traveled safely. No bags got lost. Nobody got COVID. So it was good. Nothing to complain about.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a tough season to travel, right? I mean, people pick up germs and things like that. So hopefully everybody's faring well, all our listeners and viewers. So, but I'm glad that you guys recovered and your team won, didn't they? When you went and watched the Raiders?
They did. After Thanksgiving, we were back for a few games, headed back out west, and just had a great time with all the siblings watching the Raiders beat up on the Chargers, and that was exciting to see that new stadium. And first time there, and my dad and lost my dad and my aunt the same year, 2018, and actually got a paver brick to support the Raider nonprofit foundation with their name on it. It was the first time I got to see it out front of the stadium, so that was pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, and that's got to be an amazing stadium, isn't it?
Oh man, unreal! Just the technology, the things they do anymore. Of course, you and I in our mid-50s, we've had opportunities to see a lot of stadiums over the years, and it's just amazing what they create anymore today. Just absolutely incredible.
Yeah, that's cool. I definitely want to go with you next year if you want to go see another Raiders game. I'd love to go to that stadium. I think it looks really cool.
It is definitely very impressive.
All right, so let's kind of recap where we're at and then what we're going to talk about today. Can we do that for just a minute?
Let's do it.
All right. So if you go back and rewind the tape, go back and listen to some of our podcasts. Barry and I have talked about the power of patterns, the power of curiosity, the power of assessment, the power of belief, the power of boundaries, and the power of values. And then we talked about the power of resilience and a little bit of the power of discipline. So that's one that we would have probably skipped ahead, but we've already hit that one. So of those 8, Barry, all right, we got a few more to go, but of those 8, patterns, curiosity, assessment, belief, boundaries, values, resilience, and discipline, which ones really stand out for you?
I think probably values. I can't remember if I mentioned this on the podcast or not, but it seems like the last 3-4 months, just values is coming at me from every direction. Everything I listen to, everything I read, conversations I'm having, mastermind groups I'm involved in, we've all been talking about values, and there's just so much in there, and it really relates to every aspect of our life. Was actually in a mastermind earlier today, and one of the folks was talking about some challenges they had gone through, and what they finally realized, they've been compromising their values, and that was playing into the hard times. So values are so important. And I want to encourage everybody, you can go back to that podcast or just find a way to establish and clarify in your mind what your values are, and make that a filtering system for the decision you make. And it'll definitely change your life.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it's so, especially now with a brand new year upon us, really ending this year, those values so important. So I'm going to come to you back on that word. Like if you think about values and the one word that you're going to anchor 2023 on, I want you to be ready to share that here in just a minute. Can you do that?
Yeah, I can probably come up with something.
All right. So we'll come back to that. We'll end on that. But let's get into this discussion. Okay, here it is. Close out 2022, 2023 is coming. I think this is perfect. The discussion that we want to have today is the power of today, right? So how do we increase that amplitude? How do we make the most of today? What does that mean? What does the power of today mean to you?
Well, I think to me, as I put some thought into this, today is so important, right? Yesterday's past. We definitely need to learn from it. Tomorrow's unknown, right? We don't know. We can certainly set ourselves up for success or try to, but we live in the now, and life is in session. And so I think for me, it's where you're at with your awareness, to see the things that are going on in your life, see the things that are going on around you, how you're impacting people, how you allow people to impact you, and to be able to act on that, not react necessarily, but act, respond. We've all heard the differences between responding and reacting. And I think the greater your level of awareness, the more you control on how you respond to life as it happens. But we've got to embrace it. We've got to embrace, today matters. Today is everything we have. What we do today is going to be a setup for tomorrow. So
speaking of that, so let me ask you, when you look at each day, do you set a goal for each day? Do you have like one goal, multiple goals? Do you think
probably multiple goals? I try and, I don't always do it, but I kind of try and live off a list of 5 things that I'll be accomplishing every day or working on. And those are the 5. And it starts with those 5. If I get those done and there's more time, awesome. If not, then, I work very hard to stay within those 5, to be intentional about how I'm investing my time. So they could be simple to-dos. They could be, project driven, maybe so much time. There's typically some reading in there, involved with a lot of reading projects and groups and so forth. So I try and get some reading in there. Exercise is definitely going to be in there. My goal this year and definitely will be my goal going into next year is to walk a marathon a week, right? Get those 26 plus miles in. And so, I've learned that the way I am easily distracted as a high I, I've learned that I've got to be intentional with my time. So if I can outline, give myself some structure, have those 5 items I'm going to take on today, then I'm usually in pretty good shape. And certainly life comes at us, you got to factor that in, and you can't really make that one of the 5 and cheat knowing that something's going to come up. But I'm day by day learning the balance of getting the 5 done and then knowing that I'm going to need a little more time for something else.
I love the 5 concept. It's so cool. And I want to unpack maybe some strategies in doing that, because I think it can be overwhelming for us to think about all the different options that we have, the things that we want accomplished.
Yeah.
And, just to kind of narrow it down to 5. Sometimes I think we just need to get it to 1, right? Right.
Definitely one at a time.
What's that?
Definitely one at a time. You can't do everything all at once.
You can't do it all. That's
but
right.
It's prioritizing.
If you're watching the video, you see that board over there, right? You see that? So that is a Scrum board. Are you familiar with that? You're familiar with this.
Oh, yeah.
I've shared this with you. So I've got my list of all the things. You can probably see that. What you can't see are all these other items. And what I do is I have my to-do list, my doing list, and my done list. And that gives me some focus on the day. How do I maximize the day? Some days I'm better than others, guys. I got to be honest with you. I'm a work in progress.
We both are.
All right?
We all are.
We all are. We're all works in progress. But how do we maximize the day? How do we take that power of the day? One of the great quotes that I've heard this year, and you and I have talked about this, it's a fantastic quote. John Maxwell says, you're either preparing or repairing each day. And so, and there are moments where I'm preparing, which is great. There are moments where I realized, I didn't put the prep in the day before. And now guess what I'm doing?
Yeah. Repairing.
Yeah. And I really beat myself up sometimes when I'm in repair mode, because I'm like, why couldn't I have taken care of that? And it's like there's 3 different versions of me. All right. So here's a thought, crazy thought. There's 3 different versions of each of us. There's our past, there's our present, there's our future. And we can get really angry and mad, disappointed, frustrated with our older self. Excuse me, our self. Yeah, our older self. The version of who we were when we made or didn't make the choices that we're supposed to make earlier. We're like, why didn't I take care of that? Why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? And we can beat ourselves up really badly. But we got to realize, got to give yourself a little bit of grace. We're human. We're gonna make mistakes. We got to fess up to what because it's easy to get defensive, at least for me. I just need to say, you know what? Okay. Yeah, I didn't do that right, or I should have done that. And then say, okay, what can I do now? What's my best option now? How do I go forward with this without pretending or ignoring anything that I missed, but going forward so that I'm taking advantage of everything that's in front of me right now? And the thing that I think maybe helps me, and at least it's a mindset, is to realize, okay, what's the future version of me need? Does a future version of me need to really scroll through Facebook for 10 minutes or Twitter, right? Or all these other things, right? Look at your browser tabs. This is me, I'm talking, right? Mm-hmm. How many browser tabs do you have open? And I've got a bunch, right? What's that say? Well, that means that's a distracted mind. Now, I could tell you, well, no, I'm doing some research. I'm just, and I don't close out the tabs. But what that's doing is creating a little bit more elements in front of me that are going to distract me, that are not going to allow me to stay focused on what it is that's on my doing list. It's not what's on my to-do list. It's what's on my doing list, so I can put it in my done list.
Yeah.
And so 3 elements of us: past, present, future. And I love how, like, Matthew McConaughey talks about what really inspires him is his future version of himself, right? Yep. So that he knows what he's aspiring to be. And then one day he can look back as that future version and say, oh yeah, I did the right things. I did the things that I needed to. And so that, to me, is talks a little bit about how we can maximize the today. So thoughts on that?
Who are we becoming, right? To kind of go off what you mentioned about McConaughey. And I think, as I look forward to 2023, this is another kind of phrase that's come up in some conversations that I've had here recently with some clients and with some peers, is, the goal is really who we're becoming. Yes. We've all heard it. The goal is never the goal till you become and achieving that goal. That's really important. And so I see a lot of people that are moving forward that have that focus on who they're becoming and doing things to help them to become more. I see other people who are stuck and they're not thinking about who they're going to become. They're thinking about who they might be today with really no thought into tomorrow, or they're focused on the past. One of the phrases I like to use is you've got to let go of the past in order to embrace the future, not forget it. And that Maxwell guy wrote another book. Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn, right? So I think the beauty of our past is what can we learn from it? And then how does it change how we look moving forward? We've all made mistakes. We'll all make more. The pity is when we repeat it, right? That's a loss. If we're doing same dumb things, we do them over and over, then, there's something wrong there. So to be able to learn from that, think about how we can integrate that into who we want to become, and then focus on whatever process works for you in becoming that more, and you need to be able to identify that. Who do you want to become? As we look forward now to going into a new year, who do you want to become? What better version of yourself do you want to be? And are you taking the steps, putting yourself in an environment? I got to bring that word in every podcast. Are you putting yourself in an environment that's going to allow you to do that? So yeah, today is pretty important there, Mr. Paul. Because it's a setup for tomorrow. What we do today will definitely impact what we do tomorrow. And so we're going to make today count.
Yeah, it's so good. I love it. So what happens, Barry, when life comes, the left hooks come, the surprises happen? How do you still make the most of today when the surprises happen?
Yeah, I wish I had the answer to that, because sometimes I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know if I shared this on a podcast or not, but October was a rough month for me for a number of reasons that don't matter. But I really was October. I was living in the gap, versus living in the game. I was just focused on what I hadn't accomplished rather than celebrating the things I had. And so, you're going to have those days. You're going to have those downtimes. You're going to have those misses, right? I'm not going to use the word failure, but misses. You fall short of something you wanted to do, or life comes at you. Yes.
Yeah.
So you've got to find a way, and it's different for each and every one of us, how to overcome that, how to process it, how to deal with that, how to not compartmentalize it, like especially us guys have a tendency to do, and just lock it away, hoping that it just goes away or repairs itself. We got to take on life, whatever it brings, whatever today brings. We got to take it on. And if we've got a good attitude, we're resourced well, we can be in a good environment and have bad things happen. That's reality, right? Just because you're in a good environment doesn't mean everything's all, sugar canes and roses and everything else. Challenges can come along. And so when we've got ourselves in a place, it's going to allow us to have a positive attitude, be around people who can support us and encourage us. We got a much better chance of coming out at the end of the day with a better result. And so all those little things make a difference. But man, the power of today is everything, because it can be a step forward in the right direction, or it can be a couple steps back. And, we don't get do-overs on days. Once it's done, it's done.
We don't get do-overs on days. That's well said. But that can be a scary thought too, right? So let's say we do goof up, we mess up, we take a misstep. How do we get back? How do we get back? Oops, there's my light. The lighting just changed in the room. You see that?
We're not having a good tech day.
That's weird, man. That's all right. See, I'm taking advantage of the power of today.
There you go.
How do we get back?
Yeah, I think it goes to what you have for a core foundation yourself, and that may go to values. That may be the environment you're in. You can set yourself up for success even when bad things happen. Even when challenges come along. We've all heard the expression to get a checkup from the neck up, right? Because most of what's going on in our world is from our attitude, and the decisions we're going to make. So if we've got ourselves in a good place, we're going to be a little bit stronger when those bad things come along. If we're in a bad place, if we're already having a bad day, if we've already got a bad attitude, maybe we're not in a place conducive to growth. Maybe we're not around some of our, our supporters, our friends, our family, people that are going to be there pulling for us. Man, it's tough. It's hard to do life by yourself.
Yeah.
You've got to have, however you want to define it, you got to have a team. You got to have a team of people around you for anything, whether it's business, personal, anything you're doing, you need a team. You need some accountability. You need some support. You need some encouragement. You need somebody to pick you up when you're down. You need to be there to pick somebody else up when they're down. It's all about the relationships we create. And again, I know I'm kind of beating this to death, but the relationships we have and the environment we're in, man, if you got that around you and it's solid, it's going to be tough to take you down. If you're short that,
yeah,
good luck, man. I'm here to help, but
find that encouragement. Find somebody that can encourage you for sure. It's so important, and encourage yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
Celebrate the victory. Celebrate what you've succeeded, man. Don't get hung up on, what you haven't got done yet, because it'll always be something you haven't got done yet. If you fixate on that, it's tough. Celebrate the wins. Everybody's got wins.
Yeah.
Everybody's got wins.
So here's a fun really thought, right? Have you ever seen 24 back in the day? Remember Jack Bauer?
Never missed an episode. Come on.
It's kind of cool, right? So a whole season is represented in one day, or one day represents, I don't know how to word it, right? So every hour that you watch that show represents an hour of real time, right? What's happening and experiencing for Jack Bauer in this place. In this scenario, he's played by, who is it? Kiefer Sutherland?
Kiefer Sutherland, yeah.
Yeah. So Kiefer Sutherland is Jack Bauer, and it's not a good day, is it?
No, not for the whole world. It's not a good day, but you're right. He's got, 24 episodes to represent that day. and save the planet.
And it's pretty amazing, right? Because there are left hooks that are coming left and right. And his best moments are taking the surprises of what happens and being able to respond in a way that allows progress to be made.
In a split second.
Yeah. And the ones who struggle are the ones who can't deal with the surprise.
Yeah.
And, it's fight, flight, or freeze.
Yeah.
Right. But I would say for Jack Bauer, it's not necessarily none of those are his options per se. I mean, it seems like he fights, but maybe he takes a different tact. He doesn't take flight. He doesn't run away. He doesn't freeze. That's for sure. So what does he do? Right? What's the difference here between Jack Bauer and the rest of us? And I think and this is just me, we're just having a dialogue. I think for Jack Bauer, he realizes that surprises are going to happen. Murphy's going to show up. And it's understanding, it's getting situational awareness. It's looking at what options are still there and finding a way around it.
Yeah.
And I think I'm not saying that's the secret to success, but that's a really healthy look. We could say the same thing about MacGyver back in the day. When you and I were in college, we probably watched a few episodes of that, and you would see the same thing. Like, what are the options that are in front of us? I mean, I know it's fictional characters off television, but let's be real. Things crazy happen in our life. And so if we can look around and see, okay, what are the options that I have? What's a good approach that I can take? Now, I would say this: Jack Bauer didn't always take the smooth and cool as a cucumber approach, but he always, it's like OODA, right? Observe, orient, decide, act. He always got to the A part of the OODA loop. So, thoughts on MacGyver or Jack Bauer?
I love those. I love that analogy of, either Jack Bauer or MacGyver. I think, obviously we're talking about made for TV drama. And I think what they had that we don't necessarily have is a 60-minute clock, right? 60-minute episode or a 2-hour movie. We always know that it's going to end. They're going to go through the OODA. They're going to go through that loop in that episode. We know that's going to happen. But I think what we can learn from that is although these guys are forced into a time constraint, they still took action and got a result.
Yes.
And I think what happens with us, because we don't have a 60-minute clock or a 2-hour clock, I think we sometimes default to, as I mentioned earlier, compartmentalizing it. Paralysis by analysis. I'll get back to you. I'll put it on a sticky note. I'll add it to my to-do list. And so we don't necessarily feel that pressure of getting it done in a certain amount of time. Now, certainly sometimes, you need to do a little more research. You need to do your due diligence. Time is always our friend, but I think by human nature, we kind of abuse that sometimes. Like, oh, we got as much time as it takes. And pretty soon we find ourselves no further along as we get down the road. So again, it's about not just goal setting, but goal achieving. And you got to put, for those out there, there's smart goal fans, right? Yeah. That T is a time constraint, so what are you going to do in the time frame you're going to do it? Life comes at us. The day's going to end. And did we deal with it all today or not? Did we get closure on it? Was it the right, sometimes the answer is no. But then what are you going to do tomorrow to pick that back up and put it to rest? Because otherwise those things just load up. We're carrying them around on our shoulders. And then, then the days get a lot heavier. Then that's when we're set up to get blasted again and get blasted again. If we don't deal with those things, that load can get pretty heavy. So again, environment, friends, peers, people to support you. It's hard to make today count when you just, when you're drowning in it.
Yeah, that's so true. I'm going to pull another fictional character out just for fun.
Bring it.
Okay. Marty McFly.
Back to the Future, baby.
Back to the Future. Okay. So what's cool about every single version of that movie, I mean, I guess you could say it's the same plot line. Marty is going either back to the future or forward into the future, or back in time or forward into the future to save somebody, to save something, to go change, make a difference, right? Which is kind of cool. I love that, the premise of going back in time or going forward in time.
Yeah.
And the truth of it is, the actor who plays Marty McFly is Michael J. Fox. And we all know that Michael J. Fox is got Parkinson's, right? Yeah. And, what a surprise that must have been for him. Here's this incredible, funny actor who gets this unbelievable diagnosis. And then, he's got to face that. And he's got this quote that I think is powerful. He says, he talks about situational awareness, and that situational awareness allows him to see possibilities in everything. He shares that for everything that's taken away, something of greater value has been given. Yeah. And I love that mindset, Barry, because it's what it's saying is, wait a minute. If something's been taken away, that means maybe something got exchanged and replaced. Maybe there's something of greater value that I just didn't notice before, and I just need to look for it.
Yep.
And I mean, he's dealing with Parkinson's, and he sees possibilities in everything. What are your thoughts on that?
You got to admire what he's been through, and then to come back. I know you followed the story closely, but he came back, even did another primetime show while he was dealing with Parkinson's, and that kind of got written into the script and the other things he's done. But I think above everything, there's a guy that's looking at it half full. What can I do? And I love the way you kind of frame that up. Of when something's gone, something else is going to come to replace it. It's like, I remember as a kid, like one of the first things I learned about disabilities was, let's say you're blind or you're deaf, then your other senses get stronger to compensate for that. And so, I look at a guy like Michael J. Fox, loses some of his physical control, but yet, he talks so much about the mental acuity of the things that he does and the way he looks at the world. And I think it comes from that. And I know you've been through some stuff too, yourself. Yeah. With the MS and what your son Michael went through initially, and how he kind of just turned the world upside down and said, no, I'm not going to be a statistic, and I'm going to live life the way I want to live it. So you got some great stories just from the Gustafson household. But, at the end of the day, I think it's how we look at it. Are we going to be a victor or are we going to be a victim? And, yes. And we face those choices every day. Every day we get a choice to be one of those two things. And I'm not going to say I'm perfect at it, but I'll tell you what, I do everything I can to stay out of the victim mentality and the victim mindset, because it's just destructive, man. There's no good. When you talk about making it through a tough day, victims don't. They remain victims, and they'll be victim tomorrow morning when they wake up. And I just think there's more to life for all of us than to get into that mindset. So take life as it comes, man. Make lemonade out of lemons, as they say, right?
Yeah, that's it, man. I think it's so important. I love this Batterson quote. Kind of ties to what we're talking about. Mark Batterson, he's the pastor of National Community Church in D.C., wrote a bunch of books, bestsellers. He says this: we don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are.
Yeah, love that quote.
I mean, think about that. Isn't it true? I mean, when we look around the world, we see all the things that are wrong with the world, everything that's wrong, right? And is that really true? Aren't we seeing the world as we are? And it's not meant to be a disparaging remark or a comment or a thought about ourselves. It's realizing, you know what, we've put a lot of noise in our world, and maybe we need to rethink of what's happening there and start seeing what's there. Going back to like Michael J. Fox's comment, right? See all the possibilities around us. So, thoughts on that?
Yeah, what comes to mind is the saying, where your focus goes, your energy flows. And I think, again, many of us choose to, look at the negative, I'm not making a political statement here. Politics is a train wreck. I don't care what party you support. it's just a disaster out there. They're all just trying to beat each other up. And it's not just here in the States, it's global. Look what they're going through in the UK, and, certainly third world countries is a whole nother conversation. But I avoid that. I want to be informed. I want to, in any way I can, I want to be part of a solution, but I just avoid those type of things that just carry so much negativity in them. Is that the right way to approach it? I don't know. I know there's probably some folks listening to this who are involved in political careers. Hey, God bless you and more power to you. You got your work cut out for you. But I think, again, for me, it's find that place where it's positive. You can, see how you can grow into who you want to become, those opportunities there, how you can add value to people instead of just sitting there complaining. Complaining about something you can't control and focusing on that. I just see too many people do it. And man, that's like, I don't want to live that life. I feel bad for them. You try and kind of get them out of it. Like, dude, snap out of it, man. Let's celebrate the wins. You got to have some positive stuff going on in your world. Why you all wound up about Trump and Biden? It is what it is.
Yeah. One more person that comes to mind as we're talking about this and recognize, look, there's no perfect people out there, right? There's only one that ever walked the planet. The rest of us, we all have had to deal with struggles and issues. And we just talked about Michael J. Fox. I want to bring up another name with you. Steve Jobs.
Yeah. What a visionary, Imagineer, right? Visionary there.
You definitely an Imagineer, right? Think about all the things he brought into play. And this is just a small list, right? The Macintosh, the iMac G3, the Apple Store. That's a cool place. The iPod. There's so many things, right? iPhone, iPad, all that. But yet here was a guy, first of all, he lost his job at the place where he started, right? Goes away. Everything is tanking. He's brought back and he steps back in. And Steve Jobs 2.0, man, was game changer, right? Yeah. And then he gets dealt with a diagnosis of pancreatic cancer. And yet still, you look at the inventions of what he had in the midst of what was happening in his world with pancreatic cancer. There alone is the Apple TV, iPhone, Magic Mouse, and the iPad.
Yep.
All when he had pancreatic cancer. He revolutionized that company. And he talks about the power of today, right? Think about that. No longer alive today, but he made the most of what he had and he realized the value that he had. And I know there's some great quotes out there probably talking about, the maximizing that. I know one that I think he shared towards the end of his life is trust that the dots will somehow connect to your future. In your future, you have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. This approach has never let me down and has made all the difference in my life. And it's sort of that, okay, wait a minute. There's things that go wrong, but look around. You know what? Maybe there's opportunities despite the challenges that we have. Let me go out there and make a difference. I love this other quote, be a yardstick of quality. Some people aren't used to an environment when excellence is expected. There's your environment word.
There you go. Yeah.
So thoughts on that?
No, I think, Jobs, obviously, a master at his trade, but I think what he had going for him, what I won't say maybe his ultimate strength or superpower, but he was so clear on his purpose. He was just so clear on what his mission was, and he refused, if you watch the movie or if you read the book, you just know that he expected so much from his people. But a lot of that wasn't, working 20 hours a day. It was being honest. It was, just being willing to push the envelope, to challenge his thinking. He welcomed that. We know he kind of, he's a tough guy sometimes to get along with, but he respected that. He respected people that said, hey, wait a minute, is this the right way we want to do this? Can we do more? Is there other possibilities? He knew what his purpose was, to change the world through technology. And my gosh, I think he did a pretty good job. But his clarity on his purpose, I think, really that was one of the, in my opinion, that may be his greatest strength. And it's what always kept pushing him. There was no failure wasn't an option, right? We've all heard that quote, but man, if anybody lived it, it was him.
Yeah, it's so good. I just think, guys, there's so many fresh reminders out there. We can look at, the historical leaders. We can look at people in our lives. We can look at our own family members, and we can see how they've persevered through the struggles and the challenges that we all have. And there's one thing in common with all of them. They've made the most of today. They've found the power of today. And so if you're listening and watching this podcast, just recognize it right in front of you right now, right? What's the guy from Kung Fu Panda? He says, tomorrow is history. Tomorrow is a mystery, but today's the present. Today
is a gift. That's why they call it the present.
Yeah. Right. And I think that's such great wisdom for all of us right now. And so let's start preparing. Let's, we can get in repair mode. Yeah, sure. But you know what? We can get in prepare mode instead. So with that, let's get into like a tip and challenge, Barry. Let's kind of help folks here. Let's help ourselves here too, right? Let's maximize and optimize the today that we have in front of us. But what are some of your thoughts with the power of today?
Well, today, again, this is a great topic. I think we could spend hours talking about it. Today does matter. I think the key element is today it just is going to partly determine what your tomorrow looks like. The things you do, the things you don't do, how you set yourself up for success or how you set yourself up not to succeed. I think that the key in all of this is transformation of any kind starts with awareness. And I look around my world every day and I see people, all due respect, and maybe it's a little harsh and judgmental, but I see people who are just clueless. They're just walking through life, no mission, no goal, no purpose, no anything. And just they accept it. And that makes me sad. I know there's the greater life meant for any of us. So it starts with awareness. So I would challenge anybody, start paying attention to what's going on in your day, become more aware, see what's there. What are you missing? Take the time to reflect a little bit, get rid of some of the noise and clutter. My favorite topic of the year, right? Reduce that noise and clutter. That will help your level of awareness raise. And then the challenge in that, do something about it. Yeah. Be Jack Bauer, be MacGyver, give yourself a 60-minute clock. Yeah. What decision are you going to make in the next 60 minutes? Now, maybe to be a decision to wait till tomorrow, that's okay. If you set the intention, get it on your to-do list, need some more time to reflect, but don't just blow it off. Take action. OODA loop, man.
I love this. This is
orient,
so good.
Decide, and act.
And I love this idea that you just gave about giving yourself a clock. How powerful is that? What does Ed Milet do with his day?
Yeah. 3 times what everybody else does.
Yeah. And how does he do it? He divides his day into thirds. And then he calls each third a day.
Yep.
Right? And you can get a lot when you divide it into thirds. It's a pretty powerful technique. And maybe it's worth another discussion altogether, but I love that. But it's really putting a shot clock on the things that you're trying to accomplish and OODAing your way through it, right? Observe, orient, decide. Okay, Don't stop. Okay, make a decision, act, go forward. I think that's powerful. I love this quote from Benjamin Franklin. Never leave that till tomorrow, which you can do today.
Yeah. Man, if we could live that.
Yeah. So if there's something there that you can do today, then do it.
You won't have to do it tomorrow.
That's right. You can if you live today like, I forget, I'm just going to use a Dave Ramsey quote, which I love, right? If you live today like it's different, then you'll live tomorrow like it's different too, right? So live now, take the moment, take advantage of what you have. I love this. Never leave till tomorrow, what you can do today. All right. So guys, listen, check us out. Go to the Breaking Average podcast. website, just go to breakingaverage.com. We would love to see you, hear from you, but I want them to know how they can follow you, Barry. What's the best way for them to track you, follow you? What's your website?
Well, buildingwhatmatters.com, as you all know, I mean, that's what I'm about, building what matters, and what matters is people. So you can definitely find info on me at buildingwhatmatters.com, and there's some social media links as well. But I'm out there, but reach out. You got something to say, want to have a conversation, I'm here for you.
All right. And Barry, I want to take a moment, if we could, this is kind of a shameless, selfless plug maybe, but I really want to add value to people. So as you know, I've got a book that's being released here in the next couple days from the time that this podcast is aired. It's coming.
Yes.
And the book's called Imagine, and I'm pretty pumped about it. And so I want to you've had a chance to read through it. So there it is. Look, it kind of.
Coming in and out.
They can't really see it. It's weird.
There we go. Kind of.
Yeah, there it is, guys. That's the cover. So tell me your quick, I'm putting you on the spot, man, but
it's all good.
With the power of today, right? How important is this idea of really leveraging what's going on right up here? Because we're either controlled by our fear or controlled by our facts. And if we can start thinking through what the options are, I think our imagination is one of the most powerful tools that we have. So it's the multiverse. That's what I say. What are your thoughts on it?
No, I'll tell you what, this is your best work. If any of the listeners have read any other work, it's good stuff, but this is your best. I just love how you take yourself back to being 13 years old and just discover this idea of, imagining things, what's possible out there, and just, it's that childhood curiosity. You talk about curiosity in the book.
Yep.
But it's that childhood curiosity that just opens up the door for everything, and plays definitely in today's topic of, today matters, because again, where do we allow ourselves enough time with all the noise and clutter? You guys hear me use those words all the time, but it's true. It's the world we live in. Do we allow ourselves enough time with all the noise and clutter to get curious and really let our imagination take over and think about what could happen? What are the possibilities? And my friend, you open up, just so much in this book about, certainly your own personal stories, but definitely did research, pulling in some great information, great quotes. This is going to be awesome. I'm proud of you. I'm excited, to see this before it actually hits the public venue. But great job, man. And I encourage anybody, invest some time to read this book. It'll change your life.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Appreciate your support on it. And you've been a value add. And with that, there's a tip and challenge that I want to add to this. You mentioned it earlier in terms of just getting that support around you. And look, don't live life solo. Life is meant to be lived with others, and they can get behind you and support you. I just listened to the Bono book. I think it's called Surrender. This is the U2 guy. Yeah. Right. The singer, phenomenal. And that was really what stood out for me, is getting centered around other people who can support and encourage and be honest with you too. Right. So you don't want everybody just giving you all. They need to be clear and honest with you and helpful. And getting that accountability can be so huge. And I think hopefully that's represented in the book Imagine, but certainly in all the stories that I've studied, I think that's so important. And so that leads me to that question that I asked you earlier. I said, okay, look, values, very important, but what's one that you're going to center on, that you're going to pick, that you're going to leverage and use for 2023? So I'm putting you on the spot. Are you ready?
I'm always ready, man. Born ready.
Yeah.
I think any value, I'm going to give you kind of a made up answer in this, because it's not one word, but it's something that will make sense if you've been listening to me. My word for next year is simplify. And my word for next year being simplify is because I just realize how much the noise and clutter and distractions slows me down. And my awareness has gone up on that. So I look at other people and I look at the type of environment they're in or they're created, they're forced into, right? It's not always by our own choice of being in there. And so I think for the value part of it, it's any value that ties into our environment, and that could be, something like relationships. Who are your relationships? We all value our relationships, but are those relationships pulling you up or pushing you down?
Yeah.
So it's looking at, again, what I mentioned earlier, talking about values is creating the filters. The values are your foundation. I believe the values you have are the foundation of your life. It's what you should be making your decisions on, who you should be spending time with, what you should be investing in. Everything should come back to that. And so any value that's going to tie into your environment, I just believe that's the most important thing. It's the thing that impacts us the most in our life is the environment we put ourselves into. There's no way around it. You will become a product of your environment. So when you're looking at your values, how do they play into the environment you're in? So I know that was a little more than maybe the one word answer you might have been looking for, but I can't land on one word because there's more than that.
Did we talk beforehand on this? And this is full transparency, right? We didn't talk about our words, right?
Not since about 40 minutes ago or something when you said, I'm going to ask you a question at the end of this podcast.
But we didn't share our answers at all, right?
Oh.
You know what my word is for 2023?
You're going to tell me.
Simplify.
There you go. See, we did not do that. But that right there is exactly what I'm talking about when you're talking about your values and the people you're hanging around with and how it's got to connect. You got to be on a similar page. Paul and I will pull each other up next year. I know that. So there it is, man. The Simplify brothers.
I'm just kind of like speechless, obviously. I mean, for me, like it's getting rid of the clutter. I got stuff. I'm bringing boxes. There goes my computer again. Try to simplify. I'm bringing boxes to, Goodwill of stuff I don't need anymore. I got to simplify. I've got to simplify and clean up and clear out. And, back to Steve Jobs. He's got a great quote on this. He says, one of my mantras is focus and simplicity. Simple can be harder than complex. You have to work hard to get your thinking clean to make it simple, but it's worth it. It's worth it in the end because once you get there, you can move mountains.
What would life,
man? I want to move some mountains.
What would life be with no distractions?
I know, really.
Think about that for a minute.
Yeah, and it ties. You read the story. It's in the book. I know we were going to talk a little bit about it, but my trip, the cruise trip, where the bags never made it,
and how that changed your whole outlook on traveling.
Simplicity, baby. Less is more.
Yeah.
So, dude, this has been fun. I've really enjoyed it. So, any final words to all our listeners as they start the new year?
Man, I mean, the topic today, the power of today. Make today count. As we get into the holiday season, you're going to see people, family, friends, maybe you only see once or twice a year. Slow down, take a look around at what's really going on, listen to conversations, think about how you want to add value to those folks and make every minute count. Like, we don't know what our last day is, right? I mean, I don't want to end this on a morbid thought, but we don't, and we don't know how much time we have with other folks. We don't know how much time there is with them, right? So every opportunity we get to be with loved ones, friends, everything else, make those times count. I mean, they're just, it's at the end of the day, that's what you have. You have the memories of the ones you love. And does anything else really matter? So when you're with the people you love today, make that time matter.
Yeah. Make it matter. Guys, you've been listening and watching the Breaking Average podcast here right before Christmas. It's an exciting time of year. We wish you the best this holiday season. Wish you the most and wish you an incredible day. Make today matter. Make today count. and make this next year coming up, make it count too. And what's your word? We would love to hear from you. Visit us at breakingaverage.com. What's your word of the year? Let us know. And you'll see a blog post there on this call. And in there's a Facebook comment area. Just comment on it. Just say, hey, listen to your podcast. Here's my word for the year. And we want to know, and we'll put that out there. We want to hear all your, want to hear from each of you guys. What's your word for 2023? We don't make resolutions. At least I don't. I make one. I get focused on one thing. My focus this year was imagine. Next year, it's simplify. And it's Barry's word too. So I'm excited.
There you go.
All right. We'll see you guys next time.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the Breaking Average podcast. If you loved what you heard, please take a moment to subscribe. This show was produced by R Squared Multimedia. All opinions and comments expressed in this podcast are those of the participants and do not reflect the opinions or views of any of the advertisers, producers, or platforms. As you continue your day, what is one action that you can apply from this podcast to your life? Tune in for our next episode as we continue to challenge everyone to break average.